What is going on, Bulls and Bears? It is Thursday, April 14th, 2022. We have another episode of very important financial and economic news for you today. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Amazon raising prices. Now, this is a discussion we need to have. It's much more in depth than you might think. Okay, you think, okay, prices are rising everywhere, no big deal. Inflation here, inflation there, inflation everywhere. Well, think about this. One of the world's richest men, Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, is saying he has to raise prices because of inflation. One of the world's richest men. Forbes has him right now as the number 2 richest man. I think Elon Musk is number 1. Now, what have we heard for years? We heard that if you give corporations tax cuts, then they're going to pass the savings along to the customers. Well, that whole myth is blown out of the water when you look at the CEO pay. The CEO pay always continues to go higher, it seems like, when tax cuts happen. So no, it doesn't get passed along to the consumer, to the buyer. And when you look at the wealth of Mr. Bezos here, you would think that the savings or the increase in his wealth would be passed along as savings to the buyer, right? So anyone that thinks that because someone's making more money, they're going to give you a better deal, think again. Take a look at this chart here. And this is the wealth history of Jeff Bezos. We see the big surge in 2020 when a lot of the competition was eliminated or diminished. We know a lot of people went and shopped online with all the shutdowns, with the health crisis. A lot of companies didn't make it through that, especially a lot of smaller businesses. They had to close shop, and that was even less competition for Amazon. And of course, you saw the big surge in Mr. Bezos's wealth. So you would think with this increase in wealth, this increase in business, this big edge that the company got, that Amazon got with the health crisis, they would have been able to maybe lower prices and pass along some of the good times to the customer. Well, no, just the opposite now. Amazon's raising their prices. Amazon adding a 5% fuel and inflation surcharge to seller fees for prime shipping. So let this be a lesson. Tax cuts and getting more money to the leaders at these companies or to the CEOs, having them become even wealthier doesn't mean that they're going to lower their prices. In fact, it's usually just the opposite. As they see they have an edge, they'll likely raise prices, right? So never underestimate greed. Now, this 5% increase is going to be targeted against third-party sellers. So expect to see higher prices now when you're shopping at Amazon. Now, let's go over to housing. Speaking of higher prices, we always have to talk about housing as often as we can. What's the big news? The highest mortgage rates now in over 10 years. This is pretty amazing. I did not think the bankers would allow this to happen, but yes, they let mortgage rates go up, and 5% now, the highest in over 10 years. So what's this going to mean? Well, this is going to mean more people cannot afford to buy a home. Does it mean home prices are going to come down? Well, likely not. It just means that people that rely on loans and financing will be priced out of the market. But people that have cash, people that can just avoid getting a loan altogether because they have cash, well, they're going to now get even a bigger edge. So the decline in home ownership is going to get even worse, and more of the wealthy and the mega rich who are already rich and have a nice real estate portfolio, well, they'll be able to come in and buy homes even easier now because they don't have to compete at all, or to a lesser degree now, against people that have to go out and get mortgages. So I think this is going to maybe make the price increases slow down, but I don't think it's going to be enough to bring down home prices. Why? Because you have big money cash investors, big mega corporations ready to come in, scoop up these homes, and fulfill their goal, which is to own it all and have you own nothing and you renting from them. Now, the home ownership rate's about 60 something percent right now, about 65%, I believe. Well, after this next inflationary collapse, I expect that to drop below 50%. And that at that point, more people will be renting versus owning because you're going to have so many homes just under the umbrella of just a few mega companies and investors. And as home prices remain inflated, that's going to continue to put pressure on rents because more people priced out of the housing market means they're forced to rent. Therefore, rents will continue to climb. So this is going to be a financial nightmare for a lot of people. And remember, a lot of people are already on the edge financially, between 60 and 70%, closer to 70%, living paycheck to paycheck. 1 in 3 people in this country here in the US makes less than $15 an hour, which is not enough to even afford a small apartment in many cities. Most cities, I should say, most larger cities. And without some major deflationary event occurring, this is going to be just an absolute nightmare for so many people. Prices are not going to come down just because of higher mortgage rates. I know some people have been predicting that. And here we are, over 5% now, the highest in over 10 years. And what's happening? Home prices are still rising. So all the people out there that said I was wrong, that said no, prices are going to come down. No, this is an inflationary collapse. And this is going to be an inflationary recession slash depression as supplies continue to dwindle, as the imbalance between supply and demand continues to worsen, more people chasing fewer and fewer products. Even though a lot of people are on the edge financially, when you look at the supply side, it's going to still be rising prices. Just the opposite of what you really expect to happen when people are so broke and in debt. You would expect prices to start coming down, but no, prices will still continue to rise. We've never had this combination of people on the edge financially, these debt levels combined with supply shortages, supply chain disruptions. Look what's happening over in China with now Shanghai under almost total lockdown, and exports that come out of that area plummeting. Look what's happening down south in Texas. We see miles and miles and miles of trucks down there. Let's take a look at that. And there's reports coming out of Texas that the governor there is stopping or really hindering trucks coming up from Mexico. And some people going even so far as saying that this is done on purpose to try to worsen the supplies and to try to cause even worse rising prices. And some people are saying that he's doing this for political advantage to try to blame the other party for the rising prices and inflation. But whatever the case is, it's definitely a mess down there in Texas, and it's only going to increase the prices and keep supplies constrained. And what's that mean? Fewer products for sale, higher prices. So continue to brace yourself, folks, because we're in for a whirlwind of an economic situation when you look at these prices and this cost of living and the supply chain. Keep stacking, folks. Keep preparing. See you all next time here. Peace.